What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Cacciapaglia sitting on the couch making some money investing in fractional real estate online. As usual, at least today, I hope I'm making some money. This is one that I own a little bit of that I'm worried about. It's 445 Lipford Street in Memphis, Tennessee. It is a single family home, allegedly 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. I was just digging into it today, trying to figure out what's going on. And I actually think I had noticed this when I first started buying it, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure because I've ended up with more tokens in this than maybe I should with when I go back and look at like my valuation for this. Um, it is one of the, one of the things where I'm trying to keep track of a lot of different problems or a lot of different properties. I probably should come up with some better systems to remind myself of, because when I go back and check the value on this one, I have to remember this is not the home that it looks like when we look at the listing pictures and whatnot. But I'm going to get into what's going on, what the problem is with it, what I think we could do about it. So it's vacant again. There are, we have a list of some repairs that maybe we should do uh, to get it listed for rent. But I want to look at the history of this one for a little bit. So this is the operating reserve chart, right? So since March of 2023, we had a little bit, disappeared, went down to just about nothing, moved up quite a bit. This is actually just because of a capital call. That it's not that we like made a bunch of money here or something. Um, did end up getting at least at some point, and then have been working on building up that operating reserve again. The tenants now moved out early. And it's actually the second time. The first tenant that moved out, they vacated. They stopped paying and then vacated on their own. Um, and so, the last I checked, we have a list of things that need to be repaired. I asked Alec about it. And he said, yeah, it looks like we have enough in the operating reserve to hopefully cover it. And so, okay, that sounds great, except that, we're back at square one trying to rebuild the reserve, to make some money. And I don't mind not getting any yield on a property for a while to build up the reserve if I think there's some long-term potential with the property. If I think the issues were ones that, are in the past and we don't have to worry about anymore. Um, I want to actually go through those sort of the history. Uh, came on the uh, back in 2022, but in October of 2022, okay, that's the first time the tenant got behind. They vacated in October, after receiving the 3-day notice. So basically, they got their notice that they were going to start the eviction process, and they said, okay, we just left. Um, so they did some repairs. So October 2022, right? It was vacant for a while. They had some estimates on what it should rent for. It didn't rent. Uh, as it was vacant, the back room flooded, and I'm going to show you what room I'm talking about on a video in a minute. A whole bunch of stuff happened to get that fixed up. That's where the capital call was. That's where a lot of that money went to do something to prevent it from doing it happening again because it flooded more than once. All this time still vacant, until I think it is. Let's see. Yeah, eight. I think it was 10 months in full that it was vacant. Um, is that right? Tenant signed a 12-month lease renewal. Yeah, so um, they did get it leased, right? They got it leased in September, I think, or yeah, move-in date September 26th. So almost a full year, like over 11 months of vacancy. Finally got it full, someone in there again. They stayed and actually, let's see what, and this is I bought in during this time period originally. We got a new lease, so they stayed over a year at least. But then I think that even though we don't have any updates here, I'm actually fairly certain that they would get behind and catch up. But that they didn't always pay on time, but I'm not sure about that. Um, but anyway, when they did get behind, we told them, hey, look, we'll give you a reduced rate for 3 months and then you move out. Because I think they were going to just try to move out even earlier. I don't know. But in general, and so that leaves us, And we've been vacant now since, well, no, we've only been vacant for a couple months now. But then, when we look at the rent ready inspection, um, and this is what's really deceptive about this, right? Is this looks like, okay, we've got a lot of cosmetic issues, but nobody's really, there's nowhere on here on the listing page or here that, is like the smoking gun, like why isn't this more attractive, right? Have we had now two tenants that have decided to leave before one at least stayed a year but then left? Or, why can't we get better tenants? Okay, well, this is pretty rough, right? I mean, this is, there's a lot of this stuff, right? But this is, I think, the attic access, and it's right above the stove. There's no vent hood. I know in San Antonio that wouldn't fly. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. This is a hole in the floor. I don't even know what that's about. So even though some of the rooms look real nice, like the bathrooms are really well renovated, the property is a little weird though. Before that, I wanted to actually just point out the spot crime map. I think this has to do with a lot of it. If you've watched my channel much, I look at this map all the time for properties, and a lot of times we'll pull up a property and it will take 2 months to fill the map with pictures. Um, this is only 3 days. It's the 12th through the 15th. Sorry to interrupt this video with some additional video of me sitting on the couch. I'm going to get right back into the property. I realized when I went to upload this that I don't think I said a single one of my typical disclaimers of don't invest in this just because I did, do your own due diligence, or don't take what I'm saying as fact. You want to dig into all these things yourselves. In the description to this video, I do have a link to all the places where I currently invest in fractional real estate investing. Do not just invest in those because I am. You want to do your own due diligence on those. And also, I have a Discord set up that's just a generic fractional real estate investors Discord. Please feel free to join that. Jump in there. We can discuss this property there. Of course, we can always just discuss it on Lofty's Discord if you're in there. But that's it. Okay, back to talking about the crime in Memphis. It's only takes 3 days to populate this many crimes in the area. So we've got a shooting, we've got a arson, we've got a lot of assaults. Let's see if that's a real shooting, or if it's just like gunshots. Shooting, stabbing, delayed. Yeah, actually, that sounds like male with a self-inflicted gunshot wound in a vehicle. That's interesting. So sometimes it's just like somebody reported sound, but no, that sounds like a real shooting. So I think this is something that's a problem that I don't know that we overcome this. If this alone was the issue and we had a nice looking home in the area, I think we were probably doing fine. But wait a minute, we have a nice looking home, right? Like we bought this home that was freshly renovated at the time. Sure, there's some stuff to be desired. Well, this, right, and like this, but wait till you see this. Okay, so this is, and there's a link to this in one of the updates on the property page. Oh, how do I, yeah, I want to mute this. So this is walking into the home. We're in the first room as we walk in. This was given to us by one of the agents. This is one of the bedrooms, okay? And then we walk through that bedroom, and then this is the kitchen. And yes, that other room over there on the other side of this doorway is also the kitchen. A little bit weird. I'm going to explain what I think is going on here. Um, but you can see, okay, they've got spots for washer and dryer, which is nice. This is another room that's being called a bedroom, right? And this realtor referred to it as a walk-through bedroom. I guess maybe that's a thing in some markets. It's certainly not where I am. Okay, so this is the first room that we're in that's a real bedroom as far as I'm concerned, but it's the third bedroom that they're counting so far. Um, he's mentioning there that, okay, you could put a hole into that other room, but that actually puts a second hole into that first bedroom. The bathrooms look like they've been done pretty nice, right? It's the only room that is. This is the room that's been flooding. It's like a step down in the back. It looks like it's an addition, but this is, I think, this is the fourth bedroom. But it's, it does have closets. It's narrow, but what's really interesting is like there's, you go in over here, right, and there's a bathroom, but then on the other side there's a doorway too. So we're just going to look at there. Um, so what I think was actually happening, what they did here is they took a side by side one bedroom, one bath duplex, and they cut a hole in the kitchen wall and then they built this addition, right? And then they're trying to make it into a four-bedroom home. It seems like maybe they did that because the zoning's not right for it to be a duplex, or maybe they thought it was going to be worth more like this. But I think, if I'm a tenant and I answered an advertisement for a four-bedroom apartment and I got here and this is what I've got, I have a really hard time thinking that this is the deal for me, right? And so I think that the only tenants that we're probably gonna get here are ones that we're the only people that approve them for the lease, right? So I want to actually I tried to do this to make it look a little bit more clear. This is obviously not to scale. This is just me doing a floor plan based on watching that video. But you walk up the front steps, and what I think this used to be a whole porch because you can see the front steps go up to both. I think it used to be, shotgun style 1-1 duplex. If you don't know what that is, it is like you walk in, there's a living room, there's a bedroom that you have to walk through to get to your kitchen, and then you have your bathroom in the back and a back door. They added this. I mean, this is clearly an addition. And then it seems like they maybe bumped this out. I don't know. There might have been a door here at some point, or they bumped this out and the other door was supposed to be here. And looking at the way this bedroom looks, I think it's the latter. I think that this was added whenever they did this. But anyway, to get to this bedroom, you have to come in the front door, go through this other person's bedroom, go through the kitchen, go through another bedroom, and get to that bedroom. Or there is a back, go through the back door. There is a back door over here. Actually, yeah, I think I don't remember which side. There is a back door. This is a hallway in the bathroom, and then into the kitchen. Um, and then so you could go in through the back door, but like, I'm, I just don't see anybody renting this and saying, okay, this is really a bedroom, this is really a bedroom, this is really a bedroom, and this is. And I mean, and this is the one, I think this sunken room is, okay, maybe that's a good bedroom. It's not a great kid's bedroom because it's got, doors to the exterior. A lot of people don't like that. It also has two doors to it. I mean, it's a very weird setup that they have. And I think that no matter how nice, okay, we can fix the problems that there are, as far as like there's broken flooring and the missing vent hood and whatnot. And this is why that kitchen is really weird looking because I think it was two very small kitchens, and maybe they used the plumbing for one side to make that washer and dryer section. I'm not sure. Maybe it was there. I don't know. It doesn't seem like there would have been room for it otherwise. But that's why they really just cut a hole in that wall and tried to make it a bigger kitchen. But I mean, it's very not a functional kitchen for a four-bedroom home. They're squeezing this all into about 1,000 square feet. So I mean, it makes perfect sense to me that we're going to have a hard time keeping a tenant here, right? Like either we're getting people that it is really their only option, or we're going to get people that um and so then they end up not being great tenants, and they get behind, or they don't have another option. They rent this, and then once they are better off, as soon as they can afford it, they're going to move out to a nicer place. I mean, it is, especially if you need four bedrooms. This is just like it's really hard to think that this is satisfying it. Oh, and so this is the room when the realtor was in this room. He pointed this way and said, "Oh, well, you could put a hole right there to get to this room." Well, it looks like I watched it a bunch of times, and I don't think you could. I think you'd have to be going diagonal through this corner, or you'd have to bump out this wall, right? Like, and so neither of those I think make a lot of sense. I've been trying to figure out, okay, what do we do with this, right? I mean, there's uh, one, I think you can market it as a two-bedroom and then have like really nice living space if you get rid of some of these walls, if you can. But if this was originally a duplex, this center wall could certainly be a load bearing wall. It might, it might not be an easy thing to do that whatsoever. My guess is it's not, right? Because somebody flipped it cosmetically, but left this just crazy floor plan. And so then I was looking like, could we turn this back into um, two one bedroom, one bath, or even, sort of efficiency units, and it doesn't look like the zoning will let us. I looked up the zoning, it's R6, which means residential single family with a minimum of 6,000 square foot lot. I know a lot of people look at that and they're like, "Oh, residential 6 units," and it's not. The six stands for the size, the minimum lot size. Um, Maybe somebody could dig deeper and figure out that there's some way to still get a duplex on there, but it didn't look like it from what I saw initially. Uh, I do believe this is what it used to be. The agent, when he did his walkthrough in that video, and again, it's linked in the property page, and it's an older one, right? That happened a couple of years ago, but he mentioned that he could see that there were two water meters. So at some point in time, probably was really set up as a duplex, which I think makes the most sense. I mean, nobody builds a home where you have to walk through five rooms to get to one of the bedrooms. Um, Now, this one I think is one of the easiest fixes, right? Like, I mean, you could close this off and maybe this bedroom you could get into there. And so then, I mean, I guess if you did that, if you can go through this wall, and I mean, I'm sure that you can, it's just how expensive is it? Well, so then you could walk in, okay, and then you have one bedroom here, close this off, make this a bedroom that you could get to either the same way or not. But then I guess that kind of works if you do it in this room. If this room goes through there, then at least you have three bedrooms. You still have this one weird room that you can't walk through. And then, the other issue is, for a four-bedroom home, you don't really have any decent sized living room, right? Like this little room is tiny, and so is this. Maybe you could open that up. So I think there's like some possibility to do this. When I think about, is this the type of project that I want to try inside the DAO with Lofty, even without like running it, it just doesn't, it seems like it doesn't make a lot of sense. Especially this token's been really cheap, at least since I've been on here. My average basis is around 25 bucks. Um, it seems like to me that maybe just selling it as is without, even maybe without spending any money on the rent, on the repairs, because I think the most likely buyer of this would be someone who does have some other plan for it, right? I think most owner occupants aren't going to buy this home and be like, yeah, I'm real pumped about it, right? It's got to be someone who's planning to do something about this. um so one of the things that I was thinking is, we could sell it with owner financing, but stipulate that it's only going to be short-term owner financing, and it has to be to somebody who is basically planning to flip it, right? Or have an exit plan in a year or 18 months or something, because we don't want to be in a spot where it's I just don't think that you can sell it to an owner occupant with, in the way it is. So we don't want to be in that business of, okay, we lend it to them and then we just have to take it back. I think there's a lot of risks with that plan, as far as, if the flipper or investor that tried to do that, um, got their demo day done and then gave up on it, there's a big risk there. So I don't know that I love that plan. I think, and I've talked about this a few times now. I think it's better off for Lofty if we start to liquidate, for all of us concerned, if we start to liquidate some of these properties that were just should never have been bought to begin with. And I really think this is high on the list of properties that, um, made no sense as an investment property, right? Like, it looks great on paper. Four bedrooms, two baths, should rent well. Look at the surfaces. They've all been cleaned. They've all been repaired. And renovated. But no, I mean, it's, when you actually dig into it, yeah, I mean, the finishes, not the surface. Obviously this was done very poorly, and I mean, this was clear from the start. And if that's all it was, if it's just a matter of fixing these couple of minor things, well, that wouldn't be that big a deal. But it really is. Uh, the whole format of the property just makes no sense to try to rent it as four bedrooms. As two bedrooms, I think we make even less money. And then you have to find someone who wants a two-bedroom home but really needs that extra space, maybe a home office or whatever. to where it's not just wasted space and they're not like, why am I going to pay for that? Um, this estimate, I looked at this and, 130, I don't think we're getting anywhere close to that if we sell it. Because obviously this thing sits a 4 bedroom, 2 bath home, even though it does know it's only 1,000 square feet. I was trying to look on homes.com on properties that actually sold. There are a lot of like pricier 2 bedroom, 2 baths that sold, but none of them are anything like this. And then you have like a lot of 2 1s, which match up with this a little bit more. The style and the age and and a lot of these sold for super cheap because they're renovations. This is the one that I think is the absolute closest. It's another one that was obviously a duplex at some point in time, but is being sold as a home. So, as a 2 bedroom, 1 bath home. Um, my guess is the interior is messed up like ours, even though they have, I mean, honestly, looking at it, it could have been the same flipper, right? I don't know. We'd have to like look. But, it looks like they have a ridiculous floor plan. And so at least somebody was able to sell something like ours, somewhat similar, although this one's a decent amount bigger. And it does have one less bathroom. It doesn't look nearly as nice, but they sold that for 103. So like, okay, if we sell it for 103, um, there's about 3,000 tokens. It's a little bit less, but I'm just going to do, hey, we sell it for 100,000 times 0.92, right after closing costs and everything, divided by 3,000 tokens, and we get about $30 per token, right? So anybody who's bought this in the last close to a year, probably, I don't know. I mean, I bought it, around 25, and I think I bought this almost, well, probably 9 months ago. So it's not very exciting. But comparing it to, okay, putting more money into it, I mean, that's what my worry is, right? And actually, I'm not sure what the status of the capital call is. The current capital call balance is being, excuse me, is being paid off. Doesn't really mean much to me, right? Like, does that mean this month it was paid off? I don't know. Because up here it's saying, okay, well, the total capital cost is, I think this was initially, and then this is like saying, okay, we paid it off. I really don't know. I mean, I hate the way they update these things. Like this section is never clear what they're trying to tell us is going on. Um, and they at least they added an update date here, but I'd love it if like it said when this capital call actually happened, because that wasn't here. Like that's the last time they updated this section, but it's not when this happened. um I don't know. So anyway, that's me complaining about Lofty in general, but I think the capital call balance is paid off. I'm not positive. If not, that hurts us even a little bit more. um that's if it sells for 100. If it sells, maybe we do a little bit better than that, because like I said, I mean, this is 103, and this is, I think, a little bit worse situation, even though it's bigger. I really couldn't find many others that looked very similar. I think it's going to be one that's going to be super tough to comp. Um, I mean, there's obviously some much more expensive 2 1s, or even, but this is actually a 2 1 that makes sense. It's fully renovated. And I don't know, maybe it's not, like maybe it has the same problems, but I don't think so, just because of um it looks like it was actually built as a 2 1 initially, right? Like, and you've got your bedroom going off there, your bathroom in between. Like, I think you don't have the floor plan problem. I mean, obviously, a lot of these you still have that same crime map problem in their selling. So I don't know. Maybe this is going to be one of my first decent losses on here. Maybe 25 was a little bit aggressive, right, to be buying it at. I see just no real way that we get back to anywhere close to where, people bought it at 50. Um, I mean, but between this and this craziness, I mean, maybe turning it into a 3-2. I don't know. I mean, this back bedroom is, maybe it's worth looking into that, right? As a 3-2, I think we can do a little bit better. But again, I mean, my worry with that is, are we throwing, is it bad money after good or good money after bad? I don't remember. But, are we just like dumping more money in, and then we're gonna still be in the same spot where we've got a not ideal property in an area that's really tough to attract good paying tenants in. I don't know. I mean, we of course we can just do the fix ups that are on the list there and try to get a tenant, but I just it's hard to see how we change how we change things without really changing the situation of the property, right? I mean, it's just um and this is that back room, and it has, it does have a lot of closets. It's got the door on each side, I think. Yeah, and then it has this is an exterior door, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know. I mean, it's a very odd situation as far as I mean, this is like especially if you need four bedrooms. Are you happy with this kitchen? Where are you putting your dining room? Like, where are you eating? I realize this is like, relatively cheap housing, but in order to work and to be able to live there, I mean, these are questions that people have to be able to answer. And so, I mean, maybe you can, right? Maybe you do that, get a door here, turn this into a bedroom, close this off, dining room, living room, kitchen, turn that, make that into a bedroom, and maybe that works with just some staging. That I think the water issue has been addressed. We haven't heard anything about that again anyway. Um, I don't know. Maybe you make it kind of a weird 3-2 and then have a better time selling it. But again, I mean, like, is that something, are we going to have Alec run that? I'm sure he's capable, but he doesn't deserve that, right? Like that's just not nice to make him try to do this sort of stupid project. Like it's not worth his time. Um, I don't think to be able to keep this as a rental. But I mean, maybe we do that to sell it. Like maybe we do that and can sell it as a 3-2. But again, I mean, it's just like who runs that project? Obviously, just managing properties from afar has proven to be too tough for the DAOs. Trying to do this as a flip, I think, would be, where we're actually changing a floor plan. I can't imagine that's going to go well. But I think, I'm curious if anybody else has thoughts on this one. Um, you know, did if you're invested, there's about 130 of us invested in this one. If you own tokens in this, did you realize how terrible the floor plan was? I mean, I know the condition, was obvious from the pictures, but the floor plan, until I looked at the video, I didn't fully grasp what was going on. I mean, I guess once you see this picture, you realize, oh, that is, this is supposed to be a bedroom, and this is that front room that you came in from. Um, but they didn't make it perfectly obvious. Um, like this room, this is that front room where I think they did a bump out onto the porch. Um, I'm really not even sure what we got going on here. And then, I mean, it's such a strangely cut up property. If this were something that were in my backyard and I were able to go there and deal with it every day, um, cutting a few doorways out and whatnot it doesn't seem like it should be that tough. But without having someone who's eyes on a regular basis and really hands on running that project, someone who's not who's not the contractor, but actually like somebody who's an owner representative doing that, I think it's really tough to get something like this right. Um, and then if we can't do that, then I don't know. I don't know. Just selling it for whatever we can liquidate it for. I really think that trying to do this as owner financing to a owner occupant turns into a foreclosure sometime in the future. I think that that's just not. I think somebody would do it because okay, this is the only home they can buy, but then in the future, it's just like why do I want to keep paying for this weird home? I mean, maybe not. But I think that's a likely scenario. And then okay, trying to owner finance it to a flipper, it does. I mean, it just comes with too much risk, maybe. I probably shouldn't have even mentioned that, but I did. I'm just trying to think out loud about what we could do on this one. I am curious to hear other people's thoughts. If you're an owner in this, is this terrible news and you thought we were going to do better, or is this pretty much what you were expecting? Do you have other thoughts about it? Right? I mean, there were six people it looks like that funded the capital call. Um, I mean, that looks like it's almost 2 years ago now. But so people at that point were willing to put some additional money into it. Does anybody want to put money into this thing to, to reconfigure it, or, just to get it rented again and then run into the same thing? Just super curious about your thoughts. Um, yeah, that's it. I think let me know what you think. I think right now, today, without any other ideas, my vote would be let's just try to sell it as is and see what happens, or at least get an agent to come in there and tell us what they think it would sell for as is. Because I mean, I think that's the real question. It's so hard to know without being in that market and actually being able to go and take a look at some of these other properties. One thing this has made me curious about is should we demand a floor plan for every new listing? This is something that a lot of properties that I look at in real life here in San Antonio, I'm always thinking about, how does this floor plan work? Does it make sense? And sometimes rule out properties that seem otherwise good properties just because it's a little too quirky. I don't think it's gonna, I think it's gonna be hard for tenants to live in. I need to figure out an easier way to really get a sense of homes, um, when we're doing this. And a lot of times you'll see them online and with new listings and stuff, but usually not for these, at this price point. So I don't know. Anyway, that is all I've got to say about this. Please do share your thoughts in the comments if you think, if you have an idea of what to do, if you think we should just try to keep renting it as it is, or if you have some other idea, and I don't want to hear the burn it down comments because there's way too many of those in the Discord lately. I don't think that's a legitimate strategy. And no, I'm not suggesting that. So, just because I mentioned it, hopefully we don't think that. That's it for me for today. Until next time, gonna keep making mistakes so that you don't have to.